everybody. This is your boy Daryl Triplett, aka Officer Keep It Real. And I'm glad to be here with you live tonight. We have a couple of guests that's going to be joining us tonight from, um, we'll be getting calls in from Atlanta, of course, all the way to Columbus, Ohio, where I'm originally from. And this show is dedicated to peace and making amends between the community. And the way that we do that is through talking and communicating. And so that's hopefully what this show is for. And we have a very special guest with us today that I'm going to log into, and we're going to get right into this thing because we have, and you may see Lisa behind me there too. Wave, Lisa, they see you. She's back there, and she's going to be answering the comments and stuff like that. And so, so she'll be taking care of that back there. But without further ado, I want the world to be introduced to Mr. Brian Triplett, all the way from Columbus, Ohio. Brian, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me? Testing.
I can hear you now. Okay.
All right, there you go. What's up, Uncle? How you doing?
We are definitely good.
Sweet.
So, Brian, start us off. Introduce us to yourself real quick.
I am, of course, your favorite nephew. I'm Brian.
The favorite.
Columbus, Ohio, 33, Aquarius. Pretty much the master of the universe and of my own abilities. I'm like one of the greatest people alive, partly thanks to my uncle and my aunt back there. I see her. Hey, Aunt Lisa. And yeah, so life is just going. I got this set up down here because I too occasionally get online and rant about stuff, give my thoughts. So this is my little cave here. But yeah, I'm glad to talk to you.
I see you have the little bat cave there. You got going on there back there and all that other good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I did a segment yesterday, and it was about young youth and adults. And it was a really good segment because I learned a whole lot actually from I had Crunchy on, and what sort of led me into the segment of, I think that I know that you have a lot to say about the whole policing scenario and stuff like that. And that's one of the reasons why we started the first group that was called All Cops Ain't Bad. And then we branched off into Ask a Cop, because I think that half of the issues that we have as far as community wise in the Black community is we don't sort of get the cop, and the cop doesn't sort of get the community. So when we came up with Ask a Cop, that is the opportunity for people to chime in on here and ask a real cop a question, because I'm still actually a real cop and have been one for almost 30 years.
I was like, you've been a cop all my life. I remember you taking me to the station as a kid. I remember, what was his name? Lieutenant Lefevre and a couple of those other guys.
Yeah. You remember all Lefevre, huh?
Yeah, I remember that name. He reminded me of the T-1000 in Terminator 2.
Yeah, he looked like that. He was nice. He looked good in his uniform, but boy, he just had that face.
Yeah.
But it's great because I love to talk. Well, you're a bit younger than me, of course, and it's interesting because every time we get a chance to chat, I get to hear your perspectives on just life in general. And some of which is highly controversial, right?
It's subjective.
It's subjective. See, there we go. But I want to ask you first, starting off, what would you what do you want to ask the cop?
What would I want to ask a cop? I would want to ask a cop, what is the thin blue line, and does it really exist?
That is a good question. There is a thin blue line, and yes, it does exist. But let me tell you this here. The thin blue line is awful thin nowadays because of this thing called social media. And so when you
Well, before you get
when
into that, can you define what it is? What the
yeah,
thin blue line is?
it's real simple. Thin blue line, cops on one side, everybody else on the other.
Okay.
Yeah,
See, I was led
it's
to
real
believe it was
simple.
something different. The thin blue line I was referring to was um, cops don't tell or snitch on other cops. That was what I was
Right.
referring to.
That's cops on one side taking care of each other and everybody else on the other.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got you.
So that's basically cops look after cops and everything else is secondary nature.
Okay.
So
Um.
when you're exploring this whole thing of the thin blue line, one thing as a cop coming out of the academy is you don't cross that thin blue line, right? You don't go over to the other side because you're labeled a rat, a traitor, all this other good stuff,
Mhm.
right? So when you talk about the thin blue line, and which is in every profession, there is sort of a thin blue line, right? So you got your
Okay.
steel workers, you got your chefs and stuff like that. Chefs on one side, everybody else in there. So on every profession, you really have it. But on policing, we do have we do have it. It's slowly dissipating, though. I will tell you that, and I'll tell you the reason why is because of this thing called social media, and not that uh, I don't think the original thin blue line. I think it was what meant more sort of for brotherhood
Okay.
versus something bad. I think it was just a brotherhood, like you are now in the brotherhood. You come out of the academy, it's a badge of honor. You're part of Thin Blue Line.
Okay.
So I don't think it was nothing originally necessarily bad when we got started, right? We are that thin blue line who holds the fabric of society together, and that may be controversial also. That's okay. But it's the truth. We were just watching, and I want to get your opinion on something else real quick before I go to something else. I want to get your opinion on. I'm going to say something, and I want you to give me your gut reaction on it. All right?
Okay.
Okay. Defund the police.
Never in a million years. Uh, okay. Before I get into my answer, what can I say on here? I mean, what's the are we PG-13? What can I can
Oh
I?
no, this is social media, so it's wide open.
These niggas need the police. Okay. Listen, all that. Seriously, listen. Without the police, we would delve into total anarchy. One because, here's the thing. I believe this is going to be a little controversial. I actually think we need more white police officers than black. The reason why I say that is because, in my opinion, white people have a genetic predisposition to be nosy. Whereas
Hmm.
black people, we grow up in households where we are told, mind your business, don't talk about anything. What goes on in this house stays in this house. So I think that plays a reason into why we don't have as many black cops today. But I really don't think we need any because, honestly speaking, um, the few black cops that I have known, what
Hmm.
I noticed is, and maybe the white cops do this too. I'm sure they all do, but these guys, even though they were police officers, they could not let go of their hood ties.
Mm.
So what I mean by that is, um, when I was staying in the short north, maybe around 2006, and this black cop, he was on the beat, as you guys would say, and I had a little weed on me and whatever, so he pulls up on me because at that point in time in the short north, gang culture was just crazy. The short north posse was kind of winding down, but it was still kind of hot out there, and so I had maybe I don't know, at that quarter ounce of weed on me or something I had just bought, and he stops me and he searches me, he finds it. And
Hmm.
I'm just ready. At this point, I'm 16 and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to go to jail for the first time. Mom's going to hear about this.
And
You're
this is
going to
the
hear
white cop.
about it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, this was a black cop.
Oh,
And
black cop. Right.
yeah, yeah. So he finds the weed. And so, I mean, I expect him to take it. But what he says to me is when he doesn't like put me in cuffs, he doesn't write me a ticket, doesn't do anything. He says, he looks at the bag. He's like, yeah, I'm just going to give this to my little cousin. gets in his car, takes my weed.
Oh my
So I'm like, so here's the thing. So I'm thinking like that could be common because I mean, honestly speaking, I imagine a lot of cops do that. You know, I'm hush hush, whatever. You take the money or whatever. But it's just the idea that he was blatant enough to tell me like, look, you're never going to hear about this. You're not going to get in any trouble, but I am going to give this to my nephew. So it's like you're policing me for doing something. You're literally going to take it to your nephew and let him do it. And I just
wow.
think that because of how we're raised and the way we're brought up, um, a black man with a badge is always still going to put, kind of family first. When there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but if that family so happens to be the worst of us in society, then is that a corrupt cop?
Hmm.
Does it make sense for him to police citizens but not police his own family? That was always something I found interesting. But as far
Right.
as defunding the police, I would never. I will say that I do not agree that the police should be militarized. I think that's going a little bit too far because absolute power corrupts absolutely. So when you give police officers military might, it's pretty pretty foolish to expect them not to act like a military. I mean,
Right.
they have
And
the
and I
tools
would
to do so.
I would totally agree with you because I could tell you this here now. We were watching something earlier today, and they had all these people talking about defunding the police, this, defunding the police, that. And they're showing all of these clips of these incidents that's happened. And
Mm-hmm.
rightfully so, some of these incidents where some corrupt cops have beat up on unarmed black people, killed them, stuff like that. Right. And they're showing these heart wrenching videos of this,
Mm-hmm.
all the while where they're saying defund the police. So the common person will look at that and go, "Oh my God!" And the person with the that's not used to seeing it go, "Oh my God! Look at this," and maybe we should defund the police. Maybe we should look at other
Right.
alternative motives. And I say this here: if you talk about defunding the police, then I will be very careful on talking at recklessness because that's what it is. It's recklessness. It's a group of individuals. It's like Antifa. It's a group of individuals who do nothing throwing game on an open flame. And I'll explain to you why. Because the same people that are saying defund the police, I guarantee you, when Pookie and Ray Ray comes a kicking in their door at 3 o'clock in the
Octavius.
morning, that's right. They're going to be the main ones on 911. Now imagine you dial 911 and there's no one to come. Literally.
Oh yeah. Well,
That
I guess
that's
it.
the
I
most
guess
insane thing I've seen. Listen, these Negroes don't know how to act right with the police. We could barely keep a band-aid over the gaping open wounds of criminals running around.
yeah.
Let
I mean,
alone
it's
you defund them. What are we doing? You're
right.
not safe. I'm not safe. My wife isn't safe. No one's safe.
I think what that comes from is because I don't know if it's I don't want to get the wrong country, but it's like maybe France, Europe, or one of those other countries, or it could be somewhere else. I have to look it up, but their police officers don't use guns. Their police officers actually, it's all tasers and I believe
Mhm.
like the nightsticks or the billy clubs, and it works somehow, some way. So I think people look at that and they say, well, that could work here, but the problem is in that same place, it works there because the citizens don't have guns either.
That's right. That's what I was going to
So
tell you.
when you
Right.
have a population of people, because I don't care what anyone says, there's always going to be more people with guns than cops in the United States. That's just what it
Mhm.
is. You got millions of people have guns. I don't think there are millions of cops in the country. Probably a few 100,000, maybe if anything. But
Well, the civilians outrun the police any way it goes.
yeah, every
Any day of the
time. So
week.
you can't defund the police when the same people that they have to protect and serve and also defend themselves from sometimes have better firepower than them. So I
Well,
don't
we're
think
at a
defunding.
disadvantage,
Oh yeah, definitely.
at a complete disadvantage.
Yeah, I mean because
Um,
at the end of the day, a police officer still. I mean, they choose to do so in every interaction, but it's by and large it's expected that police officers um, will act in accordance with the law. They're expected to, whereas criminals, they're criminals for a reason. They don't obey the law. So
Well,
you
they're
know, you.
asking us to fight with one hand tied behind our back and,
I mean, I
and one
wouldn't do
eye
that.
blindfolded. Oh,
I,
absolutely.
I wouldn't want to be a
Absolutely.
police officer in this country because.
With the new social media, out, that has almost dehumanized this job and it's taken it from an already tough job to an almost impossible job. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't,
Right.
right? I'll give you an example. Just a situation, not going to call no names. Thanksgiving. Father kidnaps, or father is under investigation for abusing his wife sexually.
Mm-hmm.
The police get involved in it. This guy kidnaps his children. He drives to Clayton County, where I'm at, and they put out a bolo. Flock picks up on the car. Our guys get involved. The kids, when he stops at a traffic light, jumps out of the back seat of the car. So there's two kids in the back. 16-year-old daughter is up front with him. Kids jump out of the back of the car, run to the local Quick Trip, banging, help me, help me, help me. He's got my sister. We find the car, get him behind it, chase ensues.
Mm-hmm.
The guy goes to a dead end. This is his blood 16-year-old daughter. And he shoots her in the head and then turns the gun and shoots and kills himself in the head. So our guys immediately, I mean, if the good Lord would have given her maybe 60 more seconds, we could have possibly saved her. And I tell you, I've watched the video in detail, the body cam footage of the officers that it's not released to the public, but I've watched the video in detail, and I could tell you, if God would have granted her about 30 more seconds, maybe she would still be with us, and maybe we could have took out the bad guy, which was the father. But be that as it may, let me ask you a question. And I asked the guys at the station this also. I said, even though it was our guys and we ran, we got the shield. And I mean, we're running as fast as we can to this car to save this little girl. And it was the most gut-wrenching thing you heard, because all you heard was gunshots. You heard 5 gunshots. Bam, 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 bam. Where he's shooting her and she's trying to fight. And eventually he gets her and then he takes himself out. Imagine we would have got there and would have shot and killed him. We still get sued by the little girl and the family because we acted too fast on the trigger. We're racist. We don't care about the public. All this other rhetoric that goes on. Yeah. So it's a job that you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying when I say they want us to fight with one hand tied behind our back and one patch over our eye. Because on the flip side of that, we caught it because, well, where were y'all at? The police shot and killed my brother and his daughter. And that was going around for a while. So we're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't. And I've seen the body cam footage. The body cam footage don't lie. And I mean, this guy kills his damn daughter and then turns the damn gun around on himself and kills himself. It's ridiculous. So when you're talking about when you're talking about fighting with one hand behind your back and that we're not disabled by it, that's exactly what I mean by that. Because it's a damned if you do, you damned if you don't. And I says, hey, you save the girl, you get a lawsuit, you get a federal lawsuit, and possibly get to go to prison for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. You don't save the girl, you get a federal lawsuit, and possibly get to go to prison for the rest of your life. So with us, it's damned if you do, if you're damned if you don't.
Well, that takes me to the where was that? Where the that I don't think it was Sandy Hook, but what was that recent one where the public was all in uproar?
Uvalde.
Yeah, where the cops were all outside, where everything was going on.
Absolutely.
So, when I first seen that, now that is something where in that instance, every person who commented on that topic, no one was screaming to defund the police. They wanted the police to be heroes that day,
Mm-hmm.
and they weren't. I don't know if that was handled. I don't know. I don't know the details as far as what orders were given, why the decisions were made. But what I do know is the end result is that people were calling for police action. Everyone was saying, you guys should have ran in there, you should have done this, you should have done that, you wasted time. So none of those people were calling to defund the police. So it goes like to back what you said earlier. When someone needs the police, defunding them goes out the window. It's only in times of peace where everyone decides to get rid of their soldiers. But as soon
Right.
as war comes,
Yeah, and let me piggyback off of something you said with Uvalde. This is going to be difficult to hear, but it is the truth. Uvalde is a direct result of what we wanted in this society. Well, what do you mean by that, Daryl? What do you mean by that? That's a direct. We didn't want children to be slaughtered and killed by a psychopathic maniac, right? What do you mean by that? Well, I'm going to tell you exactly what I mean by that. You crucify us if we overreact. You crucify us when we underreact. So that commander, although he made the wrong decision, let's be very clear about that. He made a horrible decision. And I'm sure this guy can't sleep with himself for the rest of his life. It was a wrong decision that he made. They should have went in there and gave this dude lead poisoning. 100%. They should have put his ass on a lead diet. Period. They did not, because they're scared to. Because they know that if you go in there and there's going to be gunfire exchange, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So let's just wait and see if we can't. Let's wait and see if we can't talk this guy out, so they can't say we didn't use no damn de-escalation.
See, right, because they run in there and a gunfight ensues and another kid gets hit. Oh, the police should have talked him out. Or I get you.
What happened to de-escalation? So now you have this commander there who's responsible to give the green light to go in, but he's freaking scared shitless to give the green light to go in because he knows he's going to be raked over the coals. Now, that's not a defense on the wrong decision that he made, because he made the ultimate wrong decision. I'll be the first one to tell anybody. He made a horrible decision, and kids were killed behind it. I don't see how he made that decision, because if it was me, I would have been given an order to go in and to give this guy a lead diet, period, point blank. And you're right. Some of us very well may die. You are absolutely positively right. But we're going to keep sending the troops in until he is no longer in existence or the threat stops, period.
Yeah, that's the job. I mean,
that's the job. But we're scared to do the job. We're scared to do it. And when you want a society of soft cops that are scared to do their job, this is what you get. I don't know no other way to break it down and say it. Yeah, the guy was wrong. He absolutely made the wrong decision on it. And people will say, oh my God, but children died. And they did die. Absolutely. And it should not have happened. But this is what happens when you want a bunch of wussies out there as cops and scared to do their job. Now, do we want cops out there that's badge heavy, mistreating people, shooting unarmed black men, things like that? Hell no, we don't want that either. Of course not. That goes without saying. We don't want that at all. And those guys should be put under the damn jail. I'll be the first one to say it. But at some point in time, we got to decide as a society of what we want. We got to decide as a society, what do we want? Do we want to be safe and secure? Or do we want a lot of bad people who's out there? Make no mistake about it. There's some vultures out there, some really bad people out there who kill me, you, and won't even blink an eye at it. Or do you want protection from that?
Yeah, me personally, I'd rather take my chances with the police being in existence and just thinking that I'm doing everything I can possible to avoid a negative interaction with them than to have them not around at all.
So do you think as since African Americans, our people are the main target or the ones that's been scrutinized the most of having negative police encounters with them, and we touched on this a little bit yesterday about how do we act, because you're not a father, right? And how do we teach our kids, and where does it start as far as our youth that may have dreads in their head and beards now, and they look
Mhm.
mannish and all this other stuff. Their reaction with a cop at 3 o'clock in the morning who may be from way up north who don't even know black people that well, right?
Mhm.
So it's necessary to have those conversations with them. Do you agree or not?
Oh, definitely, I do. But that goes back to what I was saying on your live last night, because you asked about black people specifically. The problem will never fix itself until we as a whole get fathers back in the home, because by and large, your father is going to be your first experience with authority, in the way that um, we can call it masculine authority because most cops happen to be men. So when you're raising an entire generation or a few generations of people who from the onset were never taught to respect authority, it'll never happen when they go out into the real world. And see, it's actually twofold, because there's a lack of respect for authority and there's a sense of entitlement. So at the same time, now what's going on is um, the attitude is, I don't have to do what you say. However, I am also entitled to your attention, your protection. Um, so it's like you have all of the responsibility, but with none of the perks.
Mm-hmm.
So when you raise kids that way, it's just a recipe for disaster, and I don't see it changing anytime soon. Because, like I said, one of the most popular things now is women raising kids alone, especially in the black
Can a
community.
woman raise a kid alone?
Absolutely not. A woman can raise a kid alone. No, actually, okay. So if she has to, okay. Well, here's the thing.
These words are the express opinion of Brian Triplett, not
Oh
Daryl
yeah,
Lampert.
this is all me. So here's the thing. I believe there is a difference between raising a child and maintaining a child. What I tend to see nowadays is that kids are more maintained than they are raised. I equate them mostly to pets. I mean, if you really think about what most women do with their children in our community on the average day, it's not too much more different than what she would do with the family dog. She'll make sure it's fed, it's watered, uses the bathroom properly. She goes to work. She doesn't have to look at it for a few 8 hours. Same thing when the kids go to school. They get out, she gets off, wash, rinse, and repeat. So nowadays, kids aren't really being raised; they're just being maintained for the most part. And it manifests in, once you hit 18, 19, 20 years old and you look back on your childhood, you realize, like, you know what? I've never taken a family vacation. I've never
Mm-hmm.
seen Disneyland. I've never
Mm-hmm.
been on an airplane. The only thing I know is Cleveland and Hudson. That's all I know for my entire life. I just grew up there, stuck around there, never experienced nothing. So to me, that's not raising a child. Raising a child implies that that child is getting experiences, life lessons, and some sort of value system. When I look
So,
now, especially, I mean, at the kids that are younger than me, like I'm 33, but when I deliver mail, so when I'm out and I'm seeing these young teenagers, for example, I don't know if it was down there in Atlanta, but here in Columbus, we had a group of kids called the Kia Boys. What they were doing was they were going around stealing cars, preferably Kias and Hondas. It was going on over the entire summer. A few of them died crashing these cars. One day, I'm delivering mail in the Windsor Terrace. They speed by me, and this is a true story. They speed by me, and I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, yeah, that car is going to crash. I'll be damned in 20 seconds if that car didn't crash right into a tree.
mm-hmm.
Took the whole tree out, tore up the entire car. A couple of them ended up in the hospital. I don't think if any of them died, but I literally turned the corner to deliver the mail, and there's the car. And the thing is, not only do the kids not have any true sense of morality, but it's also there's no fear of accountability anymore. Going back into, I believe, can women raise children? Not really, because women are not designed to discipline children. And discipline is the real world. The real world isn't you ask for whatever you want and then somehow you get it. That's not the real world. The real world is discipline, it's compromise, and in a lot of cases, the real world is submitting to a higher authority than yourself.
Hmm.
Um, Nowadays, that's just been completely removed, and in my opinion, women are not genetically dispositioned to instill that type of um, those type of values into their
Well,
children.
well, I will tell you this here. There are there are plenty of strong mothers out there who have raised good kids out there that have gone to be big things in life. So it can be done. It absolutely positively can be done.
The
I think
exceptions
there's
don't make
much.
the rules.
I think that it is a chance that you're taking. It's a flip of the coin that you're taking when you're doing that. And I do believe that a man is a sort of a form of authority figure in the house and in that child's life. Now, some men are pieces of crap, right?
Hmm.
Uh, but I'm talking about in general, in whole, the way that it was sort of designed was that a man instills the discipline in the kid. Now, a woman can do it also; it can be done, but the preferred method, how I look at it, just me, is it would be great in a lily world that if both parents were there raising this child. Because one thing, let's reverse that. A mother or a father can't, I don't think, necessarily give a child the motherly love that a child needs also. I really don't. I just
Well,
don't.
no,
I don't think that
I
it.
completely agree. I mean, don't get me wrong. Both sides add something, but in my opinion, what a mother adds is, I mean, it's comforting. I mean, it's the whole nature versus nurture argument. So, I mean, at 7 years old, you know, if you wake up in the middle of the night, oh my God, there's a monster in my room. Run to mom. First thing mom's gonna do is hug you. Oh, honey, it's gonna be all right. You don't have to be afraid. You
Mhm.
know, but dad is gonna say, well, let's go in the
Get the
room and
gun.
check it out. There's no monster here.
Dad's gonna say, "Get the gun."
Yeah, you know, like it's going to be more in line with how the world is going to treat you, because no matter what, mothers coddle their children, especially their sons. And I think that's the most dangerous thing, especially when you're talking about the black community, because like I said yesterday, what tends to happen is the boys are raised physically strong but emotionally weak. See, and we live in a time now where everyone wants to blur the lines. You know, I'm this. I was born this, but now I'm this, or
Mhm.
uh, my truth, or well, I feel. But the truth of the matter is, the most dangerous men throughout history, most of them were emotional guys. You know, when you look at your mass shooters, those are emotional men. When you look at your men
Mhm.
in jail for domestic violence, those are emotional men. And right
Mhm.
now, because the black community, we live in a mother raised culture. Women are projecting on their sons and making them more emotional, but not realizing that that same little boy that you're telling it's okay to cry and be soft and let your emotions out and express how you feel, he's going to grow up into a man one day and have the strength of a man. So if he's emoting in a feminine way, where every time something gets him upset, he wants to get emotional and react to that in a way that's kind of like lashing out, well, that's where the true danger comes in. What I
Mhm.
think is, we need fathers around to teach stoicism. You know, the best poker players, the best chess masters are the guys who you look at their face and you can't read it. It's
Mhm.
just, you know, blank slate. You know, that's
Well,
stoicism. There's
but you would have to give credit also to the mothers who have done it. There are some mothers who will grab the gun and
Oh, of
go
course,
downstairs
yeah,
and see.
definitely. I mean, and
There
I
are some
do.
women out there who will do that.
They are. I mean, and I'm not taking anything away from them. I just think that it's still not conducive, because if she is doing that, then she is not in her natural feminine state. That means she's the
Well, but
masculine person.
then that would be something to say. What do you got a problem with women cops?
Yes. Absolutely. There should be no women police officers, women in the military.
Are
No,
you kidding me?
absolutely. No, no, I'm not. No, I mean, cause
I
they, I
I
mean, cause
know I know great women cops. I know
I
some
mean,
women cops who
I
could
mean,
probably
I'm
kick both
sure
of our
you.
tails.
I mean, I'm sure you do, but but just think if a guy's 6'5", 270 pounds and punches her in the face, all of that cop stuff goes out the window.
If a guy's 6'5", 270 pounds, and he punches me in the face,
But see
hey,
that, but see, here's the difference though.
it's gonna
This
be
is the
on and
difference.
popping.
This is the difference. If he does that to you, it just becomes a simple.
A fight.
It's a fight. And so if he gets the better of you, get in the gym, tighten up, do better next time. There's no scenario where we're going to tell a woman that. If a woman gets beat up by a man, no one is going to tell her, well, you should have been strong enough to beat him. No one's ever going to say that.
I agree with that, but there are females out there who are perfectly capable of handling themselves.
I mean, I have no doubt.
I have seen females take down grown men my size or better.
Oh, of course. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I'm sure there's a female out there that can knock me off. One of these MMA fighters, somebody get a hold of me, probably put me in an arm bar or something like you used to do, and just take me out. But here's the thing.
It can be done.
Right, it can be done. But here's the thing, though. The exception does not disprove the rule. I mean, we're going to say 9 times out of 10, that's the true argument. That 1 time out of 10 is kind of inconsequential.
Well, I think that you have to be realistic in what you're doing too. So we employ females as cops because they're just as equal to do the job, but also they're much smarter than the guys because they're using their brains instead of their bronze.
I mean, I don't know because I don't know. I mean, I've never actually interacted with a female cop. Anytime I've been stopped or had to deal with police, there were men, and every encounter actually ended on a positive note. I've never had a bad experience with police personally, but I just know that, and I guess it also ties into the image because sometimes image matters and. Just I know me. If a time ever comes where I do need to call the police, I am not picturing a lady cop walking through the door to solve my issue.
Oh, well, that could very well happen.
I mean, it possibly.
There's a lot of great female cops out there who I've seen handle a situation far better than what I would. And I'm not just talking about physically, because one thing that we're learning in policing in 2023 is that it's not always about physical muscles going in.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Effing someone up and just doing a little paperwork and going on. No. Times have totally changed from that. Yeah, that still happens. That's still out there. You still have to do that sometime. But most part, hell, we're mostly social workers out there now. We're mostly clergymen listening to people's problems and de-escalators now and all types of other stuff. You know,
I mean, I can see the utility of it because I mean, okay, well let me say it like this. If there were going to be more women cops, and if I were going to endorse that idea, then I would want them to be black women. The reason why I would want them to be black women is because when it comes to de-escalation, I could see how it would be more helpful having more black women officers in the black community because it's gonna trigger that natural instinct to respect mama. That could be mama. That could be auntie. That could be grandma right there. Whereas if you grown up and you never experienced male authority, but yet, you know, your mom and grandma have your utmost respect, then yeah, I can see how a woman walking in that reminds you of them could de-escalate a situation faster than a guy who walks in possibly looking like the dad you never knew.
Right. Well, let me ask you this here. So at the beginning of your conversation, and then I want to get to a statement that Penny Williams just made, and I'm going to bring Lisa on for that one. I want her to read that for us. But at the beginning of your statement, you said there need to be less black cops and more white cops.
Less black male cops. Less black male cops. There need to be less black male cops. Yeah, let me clarify.
Okay, all right. Lisa, what did Penny Williams say? What is that?
But the defunders want a female social worker to walk into that balance.
So, okay, so you know, Penny brings up a good point. So in all of this domestic violence and all of this gunslinging, all of this other stuff that we have to go through, for example, the father who shot his daughter in the face,
Mm-hmm.
and then shot himself, would have been an appropriate time for defunding the police and having a social worker there? Would the social worker have been able to do anything in that situation? I think you're going to need a lot more social workers.
I mean,
Because I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen. He's going to put a bullet in that child like he did. He's going to put a bullet in that social worker, and then he's going to put a bullet in his head.
Yeah, see, I was thinking in that situation, his mind was already made up. So typically, you know, I don't think those things are spur of the moment. I think those things, like in a lot of cases, that stuff is kind of planned out. Maybe not to a T, but
but the thing is though, and to bring to Penny's point that they expect social workers to walk into a domestic violence situation and handle it, when most of the domestic violence situations we don't even answer, not unless it's at least 2 cops there with guns, bulletproof vests, mace, OC, tasers, batons. Because guess what? This ain't what you want. This is the real world. Mm-hmm. And these guys, they pull knives, they pull guns. We just had an officer got shot in the face by a deranged woman on a domestic violence call. So really, like I said, it's just the hype. It's like defund the police. It's just something to fucking say.
Well, here's the thing about domestic violence and those calls. I would look, there should be something in place. And this might sound controversial. It may rub some people the wrong, but I honestly believe that the first time a woman calls and says, "He hit me," you send your police officers there, they go investigate, they find out, he really hit her, he goes to jail. The second time she calls and says, "He hit me again," Sweet Sally, you are on your own. Molly, you in danger, girl. Figure it out. You know why? Because, and I feel the same way, even in regards to like family. See, the thing is, when you put someone in your relationship, the only time you do that is when you're actually fed up. But what I seem to see is a lot of these DV cases, the guy gets out and he's right back in the house.
Well, that's because the woman's letting him back in the house.
Yeah, exactly. So the thing is,
but you got to think, a lot of times the guy is the main breadwinner sometimes. So the woman is like, okay, fine. We got him out of the house. Now, what do we do? Do we go to a shelter? Do I take my 5 kids to a shelter? He works. He's the only one in the house that's working because I've been taking care of the kids for so long.
Well, you didn't think about that when you
feeds us.
She didn't think about him being the only one working when she threw the DV on him, because I'm sure he's going to lose the job now anyway. More than likely.
Well, but those are some of the real problems. Those are some of the real problems that these women face. Hold on, let's go back to Lisa for a second here. Okay, Lisa, Penny said something else.
Right, because when you just want him to leave for a while.
Right. So, but again, it's one of those things to where when you're talking about domestic violence, and we get this all the time, we take call after call, a repeated call after call to the same house, the same woman, the same guy.
I'd be charging her too.
At For this what? Point, there's not a charge.
Perpetual incitement. He's hitting you for a reason. Yeah.
Show me that in the law books.
I'm just saying, at this point, I mean, if you're going to keep, because here's the thing, like I said, the first time you call, you're in danger. And it's like, okay, cool, I get that. But once you take him back and you've made your 3rd or 4th call, well, we all know where this is leading. One day you're not going to make the call because you won't be able to. But before we get to that point, every time you call here and you're taking him back, you just want him to blow off steam, you're taking away officers that could be responding to a kidnapping. You're taking away officers who could be responding to some guy just broke into some crackhead just broke into my mom's house. But we're over here.
And that is part of the frustration. That is part of the frustration that officers go through, both male and female officers. And good for you, Penny. I see you got out of it. Good for you.
Yeah, good for you.
Because there's a lot of women who don't get out of it, and I get complained on a lot because I'm a realist, and when I go to domestics, I tell the woman, listen, I understand you love him. I understand he's the breadwinner. I understand you don't got nowhere to go. Hell, sometimes I've gotten them rooms myself with my own money
Mm.
just to get them away for that night. Listen, just get your head clear, get a new game plan with the kids, somewhere to bathe the kids at, stuff like that. Just relax for the night, start again tomorrow. But I always tell them, you will, if you don't stop and do what Penny did and get out, you will always be his victim.
Exactly. Now, see,
You will
here's the thing
always
with
be his
that.
victim. That's what he's banking on. That's what
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
banking on.
And see, and here's the thing. See, and this is one of the problems that people have with me is because I am very hard on myself. Um, I will purposely put myself through tough situations. I will purposely stress myself out with a new task. I'm just that person that truly believes that if you're going to have progression, there must be some sort of suffering along the way. It's the only way you learn. But because I carry that sort of mind frame, it is very hard for me to sympathize and empathize with people who will do less work than me, but still expect similar or better results. So going into what Penny said, so the fact that there is a woman right there who I could point to and say, she got out, and to the next woman who doesn't get out, you could have did the same thing Penny did. Now, granted, there could be reasons why. Let's say he is the breadwinner, which I find hard to believe because most of the time when I see these situations, Bonquisha's living in a low-income house. Gloctavion's only making about $100 a day selling his nickel bag, so he's not really a breadwinner. He's just, maybe funding a couple bad habits. He's buying some single cigarettes and coming in with a bottle of Taylor Port, but he ain't really paying no real bills.
Right.
He ain't even supposed to be in that house.
Right,
You know what I'm saying?
right,
Like, to be
right.
honest.
He's violating
So,
the restraining order.
yeah, exactly. So it's like, so when you do that and you invite the problem back in, it just is, it's like the boy who cried wolf. It just takes my sympathy and empathy levels all the way down because I've seen, like Penny's one of them, and I've seen women who it only took one time. You put your hands
Right.
on me one time,
And I'm out.
Yeah, exactly. So
let me ask you this
you
here.
are.
So we're running out. We're running down on time. I love the conversation we're having. I couldn't wait to have this conversation with you because I just know you. So we're coming up on the hour here, but I want to get your thoughts in 60 seconds when I'm done
Yeah.
with the question. I want to get your thoughts on this. How do we mend the relationship between cops and the community, the Black community specifically?
The truth is, you don't. It can't be done. It's a hopeless dream. It'll never happen. The first step to making it happen would be to completely annihilate hip hop and rap music because that's kind of where. I mean, there was always this thing with the police and black people. I mean, the original police were slave catchers. So there's always been a sort of animosity between police and black people. However, once hip hop and rap became the forefront of our entertainment and NWA said, fuck the police, it's in the lexicon forever. It'll never go anywhere. Even down there in Georgia where you are, that whole Young Thug Rico case. Right now, the police looks like the bad guys. So there will never be a time when the black community and the police get along. We just have to tolerate each other. And right now, the police have the upper hand because they have the courts. And most of the time, the judge is going to back them unless there's some really extensive circumstances to prove that you're right. So, it'll never happen. There will never be harmony between the black community and police officers.
Boy, I really hope you're wrong on that one.
Me too.
Because
I do too.
I take a little different stance on it. See, I believe wholeheartedly that if the black community and cops knew each other and not just looking at suspect number one over there, but looking at that's John Bates over there. Now I know he's a dumbass sometime, but he's this, he's that, he's that. And if you get on a first name basis with them and really do community oriented things, I think that it at least starts the trend of some racist cops looking at black people as people.
Right.
Let's just start there. Just look at
and that's a problem too.
people.
But But see, the only thing with that is, see what white people don't know, and white cops kind of don't know. I think they might be maybe figuring out that black people have known all along is there are three types of black people, and when we say black people, there are actually three types. You have black people, you have niggas, and then you have niggas that can be black people. So I fall into that third category. You know,
you got niggas that could be black people.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I could literally go hang out with I can sit in a book club, watch some weird Game of Thrones stuff or watch anime, but then at the same time I can go right into the middle of the hood, sit down and still just politic with the guys. However, I also understand with that, the pure niggas just give us a bad name because that's who cops tend to deal with the most. And so we all have implicit biases, and even black people ourselves, certain actual black people who have none of that hood stuff in them, they don't even like hood black people.
That's right.
I mean, you can call it racism, but what I call it is just simple anecdotal experience. Because I've been places where I've been like maybe a warehouse job or somewhere where there's a lot of white people. They don't experience black people a lot. But once they get to know you, you hear that, oh, you're not exactly what I thought.
Not a bad guy after all.
You hear that. I have a wife friend, and I know we got to end up, but I'm going to tell this story. I got a wife friend. His name is Christian. It's like my dude. I met him like in 2015. And so I went to see him in Florida a couple years ago. We're having this conversation, and Jamie Foxx was the topic of conversation. I was either scrolling Facebook and Jamie Foxx popped up or something, and I mentioned his name. I said, "You know who that is?" He looks at me and says, "Oh yeah, that's the guy from Spider-Man." So I'm like, that's just weird. But then what I come to find out is him growing up, he was so far removed from black culture that I was the first black friend he's ever made, the first black person he's ever spoken to longer than 5 minutes. And that's what being white in America is. You can grow up and literally completely ignore black people, not have to interact with them. Whereas black people, we don't have that benefit. Growing up for us, by the time we're 10, all of our favorite superheroes are white. All of our idols are white. Our favorite actors are white. The only thing that we can say our favorite black whatever is normally a rapper. So, I mean, you got to remove the cultural bias. But in order to do that, black people either have to start moving into places where white people live and showing them that we're all not that bad, and hope the white people don't move out, or get more white people who are interested in actually learning true black people. But I think both are a long shot.
As far as and you don't fault your friend for
no, not at all. I actually thought it was. I'm just
right.
Yeah, no.
So
I mean, because there was nothing. There was no reason for him to be interested.
We fought the white cops for feeling like that then, and maybe that's a topic for another day. But it's something to think about. And the reason for this show is to start the interaction between public and asking cops and getting a real true answer back and not no bullshit. And I think that is where we start. Now, listen, we've tried rioting, protesting, looting, F the police, all this other stuff. We've tried all that other stuff before. It doesn't get us anywhere. Why don't we actually sit down and try to get to know each other? Now, that's a broad spectrum, and it takes time to do that. And it takes the willingness from the community side and from the policing side to do that, because it does no good to stay on the thin black line, cops on one side, everyone else on the other side.
Well, that goes back to what you were saying earlier about defunding the police. If we don't defund them, then maybe some of those funds could be used for more community outreach. So maybe.
The problem is with that. The problem is with that is crime don't stop. That's the problem. While we're doing that, you're still getting hit over the head by a mugger. Your wife is still being raped.
Well, here's the thing. I mean,
it's still being done.
I mean, for lack of a better term, it's a war. There are going to be there's collateral damage. The thing is, if you want to have the community embrace you, you have to take that time out to reach out to the community in meaningful ways instead of just symbolic gestures, and just understand that, maybe like while 20 or 30 of our cops are standing here handing out turkeys, somebody's going to knock off a liquor store around the corner. Now, we won't be able to respond to it as fast.
A liquor store, there's going to be a drive-by. Someone's going to be getting raped.
And I get that. So you may get 5 to 10 people who get hurt, but then if you reached 100 people and you've made friends of them, or at least some sort of dialogue has started, and maybe, it's for the greater good.
And this is why I truly believe that this program that we're doing even starting it off like this way here is such a dynamic impact on our community, because at least it gives our African American community a chance to know somewhat from a cop's perspective what we're thinking. From everything, and we'll discuss everything on here, from traffic stops, what do you do? From dealing with the police, what do you do? Warrants, court proceedings, stuff like that, because these are all things that we have to constantly deal with in this here.
Yeah.
But Brian, I'd like for you to give a shout out, give your social media stuff. Lisa will put it up, and
Oh,
so
cool.
we got to go ahead and wrap up here. So give
All
out
right,
your
well,
social media to us and give us a shot. Give a shout out.
I'm on Facebook. You can find me at Damon Julian. That is actually my internet name. I just use my real name because my uncle would always call me that anyway. But yeah, I'm on Facebook, Damon Julian, YouTube, Damon Julian. Got my own podcast starting up, and I'm literally I'm pretty much Kevin Samuels reincarnated, but I'm just a lot younger. And so yeah, I mean, I just wanna speak about just the issues that kind of plague us, because don't get me wrong, I understand we're all one huge Earth family, but I have a special place in my heart for the people that look like me. We have a lot of problems, and so I think that's where I'm coming from, and I think to start to even get to where you want us to get as far as relationships better with citizens and police officers, we have to get relationships better in the home. That's where it starts at. So
And
if
it
you
does
can,
start that. I've always said being a good cop. Because I had someone ask me real quick, and then we'll jump. What makes a good cop? I said being a good person first.
Mhm.
So this is going to end our segment for today. I'm
All right,
blessed
well,
to have your presence with Brian Triplett here with us here on the Officer Keep It Real show. I appreciate you coming out. I want you to come back again. We got so much more to
anytime,
discuss.
Uncle.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm your boy Daryl Triplett, and I am out. Thank you so much
Peace,
for
people.
joining us. Peace.
All right, Uncle.
All right.